Welcome to this online service of Neshoba Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the minister, the Reverend Beth Lefever, pleased and privileged to serve as the minister of this congregation, and I'm so very happy that you have chosen to join with us this morning. Our opening words are by the late A. Powell Davies, former minister at All Souls Church in Unitarian in Washington, D.C. These words are excerpted. Here we are, all of us, all upon this planet, bound together in a common destiny, living our lives between the briefness of the daylight and the dark. Kindred in this, each lighted by the same precarious, flickering flame of life. How does it happen that we are not kindred in all things else? How strange and foolish are these walls of separation that divide us. Let us be together in worship. And now Tom Adams will light our chalice.
On the wall behind me is a poster of a mural that hangs in the United Nations headquarters. It's stained glass done by Norman Rockwell. And in the middle are the words, "Do unto others as you would have them do unto you." As I light our chalice this morning, I ask that you spend a few moments reflecting on how these words are being played out in your life right now. And now join me in reciting our Affirmation of Covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Hi friends. Today for the Story of All Ages, we are going to be reading What Does It Mean to Be Present by Rana Di Rio. What does it mean to be present? Does it mean showing up in class? No. Does it mean sharing something at show and tell? No. Does it mean wrapping yourself up? No. Being present means listening carefully when other people are speaking. Noticing when someone needs help and taking the time to give them the help they need. Focusing on what's happening now instead of thinking about what's next. Appreciating what you have, even if what someone else has seems better. Waiting patiently for your turn. Treating each new experience as an opportunity. And understanding that making mistakes is how we learn and grow. Cuddling with your puppy and enjoying how soft and wriggly he feels. Relishing the warmth of the sun and the sound of the rain. Feeling the sand between your toes, watching the rolling waves, smelling the briny seaweed. Listening to the cawing seagulls and tasting the ocean's salty spray. Allowing the rhythm of your breath in and out to make you feel peaceful. Closing your eyes and being still enough to hear your inner voice. Being present means living in the moment. It means realizing that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. So tell your friends what it means to be present and spread the word. When we're all present, life can be much richer, fuller, and happier.
Our offering words are by pupils of the Lincoln School, and they are adapted. Peace means the beginning of a new world. It means that nations are friends. It means joy to the world. Peace is quiet and calm. It is rest. It is silence after a storm. It is love and friendship. It is the world's dream of dreams. Peace brings comfort and happiness. It brings bread to the hungry. It brings prosperity to the nations. It means the strong respect the weak, the great respect the small, the many respect the few. It is like spring after winter. It brings sunshine into the world. It is like sweet music after harsh sounds. Let us share of our resources during this, our morning offering, that our church may continue to further the cause of peace, however, whenever, and wherever we can. My reading this morning is by the late Adlai Stevenson, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. We traveled together, passengers on a little spaceship, dependent on its vulnerable reserves of air and soil, all committed for our safety, to its security and peace, preserved from annihilation only by the care, the work, and I will say the love we give our fragile craft. We cannot maintain it half fortunate, half miserable, half confident, half despairing, half slave to the ancient enemies of man, half free in a liberation of resources undreamed of until this day. No craft, no crew can travel safely with such vast contradictions. On their resolution depends the survival of us all. Next Saturday is United Nations Day, and I thought it might be worth lifting up, especially in today's sad, unequal, and divided world. When I sat down to write the sermon, however, I was struck by how boring a topic it seemed. In fact, I was struck by that thought as I was driving to the church to begin work on the sermon, chastising myself vigorously for coming up with such a deadly, dull topic. But as I worked on coming up with the opening words, the offering words, the meditation, and possible readings, I realized it only sounds boring. I should have come up with a more dynamic title. Yes, the world can be saved, for instance, or Coming Together for Survival, or One for All for One, the unofficial motto of Switzerland. But United Nations Day? Blah. Even I wouldn't tune into it, other than I know, understand, and appreciate how important it is that we all do continue to come together to grow our church and its influence both on ourselves and the broader community, despite how boring a sermon topic might sound and despite the run-on sentences the minister occasionally uses. And despite an unimaginative title, you might be surprised. I hope you will be surprised. I hope we all will be surprised. So in imagining more exciting titles, I was especially drawn to the One for All for One possibility, which means that we, as thoughtful, caring, responsible individuals, should always act for the benefit of the group or the whole. And the group should act for the benefit of each individual. That mutual caring and support, even institutionalized, would be refreshingly effective in creating a fairer, kinder world, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? Now I know that not everyone supports the United Nations. Though the United States is one of the founding members of this international organization, and one of the 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, there has been opposition to U.S. involvement in the UN since its beginning in 1945, or shortly before. That beloved source, Wikipedia, tells us that there have been various proposals through the years that we leave the United Nations, and further suggests that such proposals are, quote, often motivated by a perceived threat to U.S. sovereignty, or theories that the UN is a potential world government, end quote. Now, I am not a scholar, either of history or government, and some of what I am going to say here today is without question going to offend some of you. But, well, a number of the nations of our world have not always done so well in their own self-governance through the decades and centuries, or even in recent years. I'll leave it to you to think deeply about which nations those are, but I will say they include nations where stunning wealth and abject poverty closely abide, where vitriol and violence is commonplace, where justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, as a rule, struggle to gain and retain purchase. And 2 world wars, not to mention the myriad of other wars going on since forever, might indicate that there is a need for some intense guidance in worldwide cooperation. That does not mean a world government should take over the running of the world. That is not what I am saying. But a worldwide guiding light might be nice. The United Nations was founded in January 1942 during World War II after representatives of 26 nations pledged to continue fighting together against Axis powers. The charter was drawn up in 1944 with 50 countries meeting in San Francisco to consider proposals worked out by representatives of China, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States. The charter was signed in June of 1945 and ratified on October 24th of that year by China, France, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and a majority of other signatories. That is why October 24th is United Nations Day. That is the day the charter was ratified. The UN was born out of World War II. The world was at war. Something needed to be done. Similarly, born out of World War I, the League of Nations was created in 1919 to, quote, promote international cooperation and to achieve peace and security, end quote. The world was at war. Something needed to be done. However, the League of Nations ended after failing to prevent World War II. That failure and the not always successful efforts of the United Nations does not mean we should stop working toward worldwide cooperation and care of the whole. The world is growing smaller every day. The risks to our people and the threats to our planet ever growing larger. Creating and supporting a global institution to help the peoples of the world to live in harmony and caring one with another does not seem a bad thing. Separately, the nations do not seem capable of caring for the whole of the world, if they even are capable of caring for the whole of their own countries. A global consortium to which the nations would pledge at least some degree of fidelity, how could that hurt? The United States, however, withdrew from the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, in October of 2017, and from the UN Human Rights Council in 2018. Why? The U.S. also has announced it will withdraw from the World Health Organization in 2021. Why? Indian author Dr. Amit Ray wrote that, quote, the role of the United Nations is to set the mental clocks of the world leaders from past problems to the present opportunities, and from local power mindset to global welfare mindset. Local power versus global welfare. He also wrote, the role of the United Nations is not policing, but awakening the heart centers of the humanity. And it is the duty of the United Nations to make every international border a garden, a place of art and cultural festival. Dr. Ray is a spiritual master and a teacher of meditation, yoga, peace, and compassion. Some spiritual and religious leaders get it, and the world is better for it. Other religions believe in and promote division and separation, and the world suffers for it. We are a nation where both exist to one degree or another. And yet, when you think of the dominant faith tradition in this country, Christianity, based on the teachings of Jesus around love, forgiveness, serving the poor, feeding the hungry, saving the children, well, we should be at the forefront of the drive toward compassion, generosity, and caring for all of the world's people. We have a way to go in living up to Jesus' teachings and his modeling of right behavior. We have a way to go in living up to the best of all religious traditions and spiritual teachers. Maybe we can get there if we work a little harder at coming together. The United Nations, as imperfect as are its member nations, might be one way to approach the welfare of the whole, the welfare of us all. At this point, it's hard to imagine how it could hurt. Amen. And now let us move into a time of meditation, reflection, and prayer. The words by the Reverend Teresa I. Soto. Let us relax, breathe deeply, and reflect on these words. In this community, we hold hope close. We don't always know what comes next, but that cannot dissuade us. We don't always know just what to do, but that will not mean that we are lost in the wilderness. We rely on the certainty beneath the foundation of our values and ethics. We are the people who return to love like a North Star and to the truth that we are greater together than we are alone. Our hope does not live in some glimmer of an indistinct future. Rather, we know the way to the world of which we dream, and by covenant and the movement forward of one right action and the next, we know that one day we will arrive at home. Let us consider these words in a brief time of shared silence. Amen. And until next week, blessed, blessed be.
For too long by fear divided, we have settled with the sword quarrels which should be decided by the reconciling word. Now the nations are united, though as yet in name alone, and the distant goal is sighted, which the prophet souls has shown. May